Hi, and welcome to the Chamber Member Spotlight Podcast, where we feature one of our many small business members. As we are aware, small businesses are the backbone to any community. They provide much needed services and products, employ our residents, pay taxes, and give back to our community in a number of ways. We're so glad you joined us today. We know you'll enjoy this episode. My name is Catherine Castro, your host for the Chamber Member Spotlight Podcast. We are super pleased to feature Guam Chamber member Analista Co in the podcast today. Analista Co is a company that specializes in custom-made clothing for the individual who wants to make a lasting impression. Norman Analista, the president of Analista Co, is here with us today. Half a day and welcome, Norm.
Half a day, Catherine.
Thank you for being here today. We're so excited to sit with you and learn more about your company. So let's get started. Tell us about Analista Co.
Okay, well, Analista Co. was a company that I founded back in 2018 to address the needs of people who want custom-made fashion. Mm-hmm. So a lot of us shop at the real great stores that are available in Guam, but sometimes we run into the issues of, is someone going to have the same thing that I'm wearing?
Yeah.
Is someone going to have maybe not the exact same cut, but maybe the same material, things like that, right? So my wife and I like to think of ourselves as being pretty unique dressers, and there was a part of our lives when we were part of the Filipino community. Well, we still are, but at that point I was the president and she was serving as the first lady, and so we would go to a lot of functions, and we were always thinking about, should we wear this or should we wear that? And a lot of the clothes had to be cultural, right? Because we were representing the Filipino community.
Right.
So there was that aspect of not being able to find styles and designs that were reflective of that.
Right.
So we said to ourselves, you know what? Let's go ahead and try our hand at designing and developing custom fashion.
That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you, Norm. I mean, obviously I've known you for a long, long time, and I've seen you grow, and just this new venture has been really so awesome to watch and to see how it's evolved. And of course, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I love what you're wearing.
I've always told myself, I want that foo.
Yeah.
And I finally had enough time to say, reach out to you.
Thank you.
And so so I'm a big fan, and I just wanted to kind of go into maybe who is your audience? I know that you were talking about maybe how this kind of the impetus was yourselves as you were looking for attire,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But now that you have started your business, who is your target audience?
Well, we have different product categories. So we talked a little bit about the product range that we started getting into. So I'll just kind of break it down from when we first started. Filipino cultural attire. So we started with that. So we naturally had people who were interested in wearing traditional attire for their weddings, special occasions, things like that. And then we also thought about, wait a minute, but there are a lot of people who don't want to dress up all the time. So we came up with more of the athleisure kind of clothing.
That is so cool.
And the athleisure clothing, we know that there are other brands that are also delving into that. So we had to come up with our own unique flair and spin on things. And then we also had folks who were interested in evening gowns, and even men who want suits and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really diverse. Our product are diverse. Our target audience is diverse. It's really a lot of what we've been doing these last several years is trying to hone in on who our target audience is. And we're still learning a lot as we go along. We've only been in business for about 4 years, but within this 4 years, we had 2 years of the pandemic, which really made it difficult for us to operate the kind of business that we have.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to also ask you that, talking about the challenges, right? And we'll go back to the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure it's challenging, to open a fashion house, right? On our island, right?
Yes.
So can you talk to us about some of those challenges?
Sure. Well, one of the major challenges that we have is the availability of materials. So we used to shop in the Philippines, and also import fabrics from places like Korea and China. And so here on Guam, our selections are kind of limited, right?
Right.
So that's one issue. The other issue is when we're looking at producing elaborate pieces, these gowns, these suits, you have to have the craftsmanship, you have to have the level of expertise
Right.
that unfortunately we haven't found on Guam yet.
Okay.
So we've had to work with other designers in the Philippines, for example, to fulfill orders that we knew for certain we didn't have the workforce to develop it here on Guam. So resources, talent, and then also the fact that it's pretty competitive here.
Yeah.
We're not only competing with the established retail outlets, but also the other local brands that are also trying to succeed at what they're in pushing their products out there. So and Guam is a small island, right?
Right. That's right.
So we rely a lot of times on our market beyond who are ordering products online.
That's
Yeah.
right. So you've got perhaps customers that are worldwide,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So what I get a kick out of is looking at who purchases your products and how they do shout outs to you.
Yeah.
And those are so much fun. And these guys are influencers in their own right. And,
Yeah.
and I think that's just so fantastic that, and a tribute to the work that you do, Norm. That you have these folks that are influencers from all over the world saying, grab yourself
Yes.
an original Analista Co product. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. That's a little bit of the marketer in myself that knew that in order to establish credibility, you have to have a little bit of social proofing. And the
Sure.
social proofing comes from these folks who have large platforms, who are, as you said, influencers and, folks that people are going to trust, what they
Yes.
have to say.
Right.
So my initial strategy was to make sure that I work with them and make sure that they understand what my brand is about and make sure that they're comfortable
Sure.
pushing the product as well, because
Yeah.
that's also a reflection of them.
Yes, of course. So when you come up with particular fashion line, right? What's your inspiration? I mean, when I saw the sushi one, I have to admit that I was like, right? And then Jason Gonzalez wore it,
Yes,
right? And I'm
yes.
like, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It looks cool, right?
Yeah.
So what's your inspiration?
Well, a lot of my inspiration comes from my own personal likes.
Okay.
And so, like the foo dog hoodie that you're wearing, I've always been fascinated with the foo dog. And, very much the same way that Versace has the Medusa head,
Yes.
that becomes its brand symbol.
Yep.
I knew I wanted to have my own brand symbol. So that foo dog that you're wearing was that. But I also thought that, okay, beyond that, what other things do I want to capture and turn into wearable art? I love sushi. Like, I eat sushi 2-3 times
Me
a
too.
week. Yeah, so I was like, but sushi in and of itself, they look like tiny little pieces of art.
Yes, that's true.
So
Yeah.
it's a little bit quirky, but it's also pretty, and it's also a nice conversational piece. So I thought, okay, let me just develop this design that involves
Right.
sushi.
yeah, it's very cool. I mean, the jeepney
Yes,
one was
that too.
awesome.
Thank you.
The dragonfly one,
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a name for that, but just kind of like watching you and of course I love to watch our small businesses, right? So I'm constantly on Instagram looking at folks
Yes.
and just seeing what the offers are. And I just think it's amazing that there's so much creativity out there. So, kudos to you. And I just wanted to pick your brain on what
Thank
that
you.
inspiration was all about, right? So, so you did, do you have manufacturing partners that, maybe that you partner up with here on Guam, maybe?
Well, here on Guam, we have a nice network of seamstresses
Oh, cool.
that,
Okay.
and they have their own individual shops, and a lot of our listeners will know what these shops are, right? So I work with them. In the Compadre Small, there's also a group of seamstresses.
Yes.
In Santa Rita, there's a seamstress that I go to. So I've over the years basically discovered who I want to work with to create some of these pieces, and you would be surprised that maybe something that I would wear to a gala was actually sewn in agate.
I love it.
It's because the talent is here, but of course we have to make certain accommodations, for lack of a better term, to work with the resources we have, and then also the skill of the people that we're working with.
Right.
Yeah, somewhat limited. These are not. We're not a high fashion atelier in France, right?
Right,
So,
right, sure.
but we're trying our best, and there are also people here who also need exposure to that kind
Exactly.
of practice. So how often do people go into their shop and say, "I want you to sew this wedding gown that has beads that look like this, or a tuxedo that looks like this"? Not too often, right?
Right,
So they
yeah.
also haven't been given a chance to expand. But for the ones that we have worked with, we've been pretty happy.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and that's what's great, and that's what's wonderful about working here in Guam is that you develop networks
Yes.
and you promote each other. Small
Exactly.
businesses promoting other small businesses, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, I know that obviously you mentioned earlier that yes, there are challenges with tailors and with the fabric, right? So, what are some of the other challenges that you encountered the very first year that you opened? Like, how did you get people to purchase your product or to take you seriously,
Yeah.
right? As a fashion connoisseur.
Exactly. Your question hit the nail on the head about people taking you seriously. Anytime you start a new business, there's a certain level of cynicism.
Sure.
It's like, okay, is this product gonna be worth my money? Does this product represent something that I don't want to be a part of? How long is this product gonna last me after I buy it? So there's all these questions that consumers have in their minds, and it's our job as the new business to assure them that their purchase is going to be worth the investment.
Right.
So that's not something that happens overnight, and it certainly wasn't the case for me. I put up my designs. The first week, people were curious. They're like, "Oh, that's cool." But they weren't exactly knocking on my door and pressing,
I want
exactly, or pressing, going into my online shop and buying it. It took time.
Yeah.
It took time, and also, a lot of times people see new brands pop up and then disappear.
Yeah.
So there's also the issue of lasting power. If I'm gonna buy this shirt, is this shirt gonna be a brand that's gonna stick around for the long haul, or is it gonna be here today and gone tomorrow?
Right.
And then now you're left with the shirt with the brand that no one really knows, right? So there is that challenge that anybody that's wanting to step into this kind of business, they have to be prepared to stick to it for the long haul.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sustainability. Yeah, that's obviously a huge challenge, and so. Going back to challenges, and you alluded to it earlier, the pandemic was a huge challenge for many small businesses.
Yes.
Talk to us about how that impacted you.
Well, I have a fashion gallery. I call it a fashion gallery in the Tumon Sands Plaza. It's very different than maybe a traditional brick and mortar retail operation like Ross or Macy's, where you have racks and racks of clothes. I only produce the type of inventory that I think would sell fast, or that people would be curious to touch and feel and see if they want to order something like it, right? So I knew that because people needed to come down and try on clothes and get fitted, that would be a challenge for us because we were in the middle of the lockdown and people couldn't go out, and we were talking about social distancing and all those sort of things. So that really impacted my business. But in the same token, because I had an online shop, a lot of my prospective customers were directed to order products that way. So in a way, it kind of compensated for it, but nevertheless, there was still impact and lost business opportunities.
Right. So how are you, now that we're kind of ramping back up, right? Are you seeing any difference, or is it still challenging?
I think it's still challenging, and I'm gonna be, I guess, optimistic, but also realistic in that I don't see an overnight change.
Sure.
But I feel like we are headed in the direction that people are more comfortable spending, and they're more comfortable going out and buying products and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Right. So certainly we'll be thinking good thoughts, and that your products are going to be on what people are looking for, right? On the list of what people are looking for. So, I wanted to ask you, how does your chamber membership benefit you as a company?
Well, there are several benefits that I personally have seen for myself. One is the opportunity to network with people who I not only consider to be my friends, but also prospective
Of
customers.
course.
And being a part of an organization like the Chamber enables you to build relationships with these people and to maintain contact
Mm-hmm.
and to also understand what their needs are,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So if you're going to operate in silos or if you're going to operate from a distance, how are you going to know all these things? So for me, I want to be able to interact with the chamber membership and also to learn from them, because a lot of the folks that are my friends, that are prospective customers, are also valuable resources of information.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also very willing and open to share their thoughts and perspectives
Mm-hmm.
about marketing,
Mm-hmm.
retail, operations, and all these sort of things. And we have conversations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those happen during the chamber luncheons, some
Right.
of these things happen at the other chamber events.
Right, right. And it kind of, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, right, when you have these discussions, it opens your mind to other opportunities
Yes.
as well,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
future collaborations perhaps,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So fantastic. So, you've run your business successfully for about 4 years, five
Yes.
years, right?
Mhm.
So how do you contribute back to the community that supports you?
Well, we did a couple of things over the last couple of years that I feel have really provided a certain level of support, but also it's our way of expressing appreciation to our community. One of the things that we did was we gave a portion of sales for every hoodie that was sold, and I did it as part of my Hoodies for a Cause. And
Nice.
I partnered up with a professional model based out in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and he took a picture in front of an old psychiatric ward, and I sort of linked it to the challenges that a lot of people were facing in the pandemic in terms of their mental health.
Yes.
So what we did was for every hoodie that was sold, I think it was something like $19. The exact figure escapes me, but a portion of the hoodies went towards the Salvation Army Guam Corps Lighthouse Recovery Center
Mm-hmm.
and other programs that were designed to help people who are struggling with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So we raised about $1,000 for that.
Nice.
And then the following year, I just wanted to try something different. And what we did was we offered more products. So beyond hoodies, we also had button ups and shirts. And a portion of that went to Catholic Social Services
Mm-hmm.
food pantry. And
Nice.
so that one was
So
Fashion for a Cause.
creative. Oh my gosh, Norm. We need to hang out with you a little bit more. You're so creative. So, what advice would you offer to anybody that was, a budding entrepreneur?
Mhm.
They're starting from scratch. They've got passion. They've got an idea.
Yes.
What would you give for them as advice?
I know it's going to sound cliche,
Mm-hmm.
but it certainly has rung true for me, and
Mm-hmm.
it's also something that I've heard from other people. You really have to be prepared to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
And if you are really intent in making this work, you really will have to commit time, energy, financial resources, and have to give up certain things that would become distractions to building your brand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've had to deal with. So I would tell them, if you're passionate about pursuing this dream of yours, by all means, do your very best to accomplish it. But
Mm-hmm.
you gotta step into this with eyes wide open and do your research,
Mm-hmm.
talk to people, and decide what you can commit to it. At least have a plan before, just diving into it.
Right.
Because I admit, part of me was also very gung ho about doing it without doing my research and planning properly. That in retrospect, I tell myself, I should have done this. I should
Right.
have done that. You know?
Yes. Yes. Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
So is this a family affair?
In a way, it is. So when it comes to women's clothing, my wife really takes the reins in that. I have to admit, I don't know how to design women's clothing, but I do know what looks good. So I
Uh-huh.
have been, taken up as like a style consultant for some people, but I don't
Nice.
design the clothing she does.
Mm-hmm.
My two children, in the beginning, I wanted them to really be involved and to eventually, at some point, be poised to take the reins, but I don't think that that's going to happen. They have their own career interests.
Sure.
So my son is pursuing a career in engineering, and my daughter in human resources. Who knows? Maybe they'll circle back and want to help.
Sure, you never know, right?
Yeah.
You never know. So, what is next? What is on the horizon for Analista Co, Norm?
Well, I'm having a lot of fun with the fashion column that I'm writing for the Pacific Daily News. It's called Tastemaker, and it gives me an opportunity to talk to people up close about fashion at these wonderful events. So the most recent one was, of course, the Guam Chambers Gala. Had a lot of fun there, and even though I'm not directly selling, I'm not pushing my brand, I'm still able to connect with people and talk to them about fashion, and I'm also able to wear my own designs
That's right.
that may spark their interest and curiosity. And you know, if that turns into a prospective customer, that's great. If it doesn't, at the very minimum, at least we all enjoyed, you know, being a part of a wonderful experience and attending a great event.
That's right. That's right. I have to say that really dug your purple. I don't know what would you call tunic, or I'm not sure what that would be considered.
Yeah.
But it was like a hoodie,
Yes.
and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was based on one of Prince's looks from the 90s. A lot of people know Prince from his Purple Rain rocker days, right? But then there was that era where he was also known as the symbol.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So
that's
that also
right.
reflected his change in style, and that was what I was trying to emulate. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much, Norm. This was
My
fun.
pleasure. Oh, thank you.
My goodness. Well, we appreciate your giving us some insights and sharing what it takes to run and operate a sustainable small business on Guam. We encourage our residents to support our small businesses like Analista Co, who make a big difference in our community. Thanks again, Norm.
Thank you, Catherine.
I'd like to thank our listeners for tuning in and listening to today's show. We encourage you to drop us a note to share your comments on this episode or visit our website or social media platforms. We'd really appreciate your feedback. We look forward to having you back on the Chamber Member Spotlight podcast again soon. If you haven't already heard it, we also have another podcast called The Chamber Biz Box, which features issues and challenges that face our business community. They are both currently available on our YouTube and Spotify, so give it a listen. This is your host, Catherine Castro. Until next time, take good care and make it a great day, Guam.